Hello. So hopefully I am back and available here. Hopefully we'll have some people that will join in. We had some technical difficulties just a moment ago, but we are back 13 minutes into the doggone webinar. Let's see if everything is working like it's supposed to work here. Because I am live. So it's working. Okay. Yes. We're good. We're good. Now let's see if we can find some folks. Where y'all at? You gotta come on back. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. So we're live now. Let me see if we can get some chat going on here. Revolutionary Love. You can get to the chat on the YouTube page. Okay. So right here. All right. Now we got the volume back. Looks like I got a couple people here as well. We're gonna get this thing started. Give me just 1 minute to just iron everything out and make sure that we are all the way ready. Again, if you have questions, please feel free to go to the YouTube channel. So watch it on YouTube so that you can interact with me on the chat and be able to ask your questions and everything like that as we get started on the whys and hows of African-centered homeschooling. Okay. Let's see. All right, good, good. We got a couple folks coming in here. All right, got a couple folks coming in here. Okay. So boom, let's get this thing started. Again, my name is Baba Dr. Brother Samori Kamara, and I am an educator. I am an African-centered homeschooler who now lives in Ghana. I repatriated to Ghana, so it's a little late here in Ghana, but I am here for you. Today we're going to have a good time. So here's the agenda. We're going to deal with the how and why of African-centered homeschooling. So many people, of course, with it being May, many people are calling me and emailing me at kamaliacademy@gmail.com about ready, being ready to homeschool, about how to do it, and really understanding the ins and outs of the homeschooling journey, right? So the purpose of this webinar is to kind of answer many of your questions in one place, right? So you can come back to this this webinar over and over and over and get those questions answered for you. We're going to have a brief introduction as we have right now. We're going to go into the content of it. I'm going to give you about 7 reasons why we should be homeschooling. Then we'll go into a brief section on how, which will probably answer many of your questions, and then we'll have, of course, our Q&A session. And you can again leave those questions on the YouTube channel. If you go to the YouTube channel, you can go into the live chat area and leave those comments. Okay. So I got my little African flagness on from Lucari Designs right now. I'm feeling good, and let's get started. So again, I'm Baba Dr. Brother Samori Kamara, educator and repatriate to the motherland, Ghana, West Africa. I have been an educator for the last about 15 years now. I started in the public school system for 5 years and then started my own school, Kamali Academy, and had that school for 6 years, a physical school for 6 years in New Orleans, Louisiana, before I decided to repatriate to Ghana. Since I've been here in Ghana, going on 2 years now, I've helped to develop an African-centered educational cooperative called Abibi Fohorie Adisuya Bia, which means African Liberation School. So we're here in Accra, and we're doing the same kind of work that I was doing in the United States of America, just with our African children who need to understand their African selves as well, because there's not much. I don't know if you know anything about the continent. There's not much African-centered education going on here, just like we don't have much in the States going on. So we felt like it was about that time to bring African-centered education here, because the people are using, European curriculums. The people are beholden, to those European curriculums, and they take European tests to say whether or not they are going to be allowed to graduate from high school. So this is it's unfortunate, but again, this is why we are here, to make sure that our children get an education for liberation, right? And if you're thinking about homeschooling your children, that's why you're there, to make sure your children get an education for liberation. So it's good to be here with you. If you have a burning question, again, put that into the live chat so that we can get to those at the Q&A section. And I want to say hi to all of those who are here, Revolutionary Love, to those who are here to listen to this particular webinar and engage with me on these questions. All right. So many of you might know my story. Like I said, I was a public school system teacher for 5 years. My last time being in the classroom, public school system, was in 2007. In 2006, I ran for school board. So you couldn't be teaching the same time as you ran for school board. At that time, I kind of thought that you could change that thing from within. So I ran for school board in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, while I was in grad school at Louisiana State University, or LSU. But I went back into the school system, and I got a job that January of 2007. Wow. 10 years ago. I didn't even think about that. 10 years ago, 2007, I went into a 10th grade English classroom. I was a 10th grade English teacher. That's what I got my undergrad in English, secondary education. And so I got in there, I told the students to open their textbook, right? And I said to them, please find me any Black authors in this textbook. Right? The school is 99% Black, so I asked them to find Black authors in the textbooks. The students went through the textbooks. They asked me a couple questions about, different names, because they didn't know whether or not this person was African or African American. And I told them that, that person ain't African American. That person is not African. But they did find an excerpt from "I Know Why the Caged Birds Sing" from Dr. Maya Angelou, right? And so that was the only thing they had in that whole thick textbook. So I said, you know what? Let's bring that textbook home. Don't bring it back until the end of the school year, right? And they fought me on it. They say, man, come on, man. I don't really like this textbook, but we still got to bring it to school. Huh? We still have to have it in class with us, because you still got to teach us from this textbook. I said, I'm not teaching you anything from this textbook. Sorry. If we're gonna read an excerpt from, I Know Why the Caged Birds Sing. Sorry, we're gonna actually read the book. I'm going to teach you, the elements of fiction, the elements of poetry, and all these different things through books that might be of a little bit more interest to you. So, we read the poetry of Sonia Sanchez and Nikki Giovanni, Langston Hughes, and all those boys. We even read Lil Boosie lyrics and Tupac Shakur. And also, we finished up with the autobiography of Malcolm X. Now, the whole thing is, the students in Louisiana had to take a test, a graduation test or whatever, right? So you take the English and maybe the history portions in the 10th grade, and then you do the math and science in the 11th grade. So the students, they prepared all year for that test. I didn't prepare them, because I don't prepare children for tests. I teach them, and if we teach them well, they should pass those single tests. But that's neither here nor there, right? So they took the test, and they were excited about it. But 2 weeks later, the vice principal came up on the intercom system and said, hey guys, we have another round of testing starting tomorrow. This time it's going to be an experimental test to see which questions are going to be good for next year's test. And I said, wow, how could, why would you give them another test when you haven't even, given them their grades back from the last test? So I asked the students, well, what do you want to do? And they said, man, I'm tired of these tests. I'm going to stay home. Another student said, I'm going to come there and mark anything on the test. So I said, what, a better thing for us to do would be to come here to school, and sit down in those classrooms where they're going to tell you to be quiet and all that kind of stuff, and take that test and tell them why you're not going to take it. Let them put it on your desk, but you tell them why you're not going to take it, why you're not going to be used as a lab rat or a guinea pig, right? And so It's crazy, but these young 10th graders, they did it. They were tired of it, and it was an experimental test, so it wasn't the test that would say whether or not they graduated. And about 95% of those students, in the 10th grade as well as the 11th grade, because once the 11th graders heard about it, it was like, yeah, we on a boycott too, let's do it. So about 95% did not take the test the first day, and then about 98% didn't take the test the next day. So, but after that first day, we had a faculty meeting, and the vice principal tried to talk about the issue of the boycott that was going on, but did not say my name. So I said, listen, if we're going to talk about this, let's actually have a conversation together with all the teachers here, to really discuss how you are trying to use our children as guinea pigs and lab rats. We said, listen, Mr. Kamara, you need to tell these children to take this test because we need this money. Right? She just came out and just said, we need this money. And I said, no, we're not going to do that. And I looked at all those black faces, all those black teachers that was in that library, and I said, somebody stood up for you. Is somebody going to stand up for these children and not allow them to be, really mentally abused in these schools with all this testing and how many, there's so much anxiety that goes on with our children, within our children when these tests come up. I said, I'm not having it. Look, they said I jumped on a table. They said I was using all kind of profanity. I don't remember all that, you know what I'm saying? But I was asked to leave the faculty meeting, and long story short, they put me on paid administrative leave, for the rest of the year. So I haven't been back to teach, formally in the public school system since. But that afternoon, when they told me to leave, I called my advisor in the PhD program where I was at first at LSU. And I said, man, we need our own schools. And at that point, I vowed, to create my own school. And I did so 2 years later with Kamali Academy. We started with 2 students in 2009, 2010. We had 15, and we grew, every year after that. Right. So that's a little bit, about my story. It's I think it's interesting. Hopefully, it can inspire somebody out there, even if you are still in the public school system, to know that we can do something there to inspire our children, but also to let them know that somebody has their back, and they don't have to just simply be passive, observers of their own education, and they can do something about this kind of, right? So let's get on into the question of the whys of homeschooling. We ready for that? We ready for to get into that, the whys of homeschooling? I'm ready. So the why of African-centered homeschooling. There's so many reasons why I believe, African people should be giving their children an African-centered education, or at least, having that option available for them, right? And so, but before we get into that, I used to always ask this question when I get into, talking about this particular topic. I always would ask the question, when you're dealing with curriculum, you're dealing with these things about homeschooling, the first question we should ask ourselves is, as Dr. Amos Wilson would ask us, what kind of African people do we need to create to solve the kind of problems we have? That's the first thing that I usually would ask, right? And I think that question can help us center ourselves and get us ready to move in the kind of ways that we need to move in terms of African-centered education. But I've since come to ask a different question first. We still need to ask that question that Amos Wilson gives us. What kind of African people do we need to solve the kind of problems that we have, right? But another question is, for me, is like, whose well done are we seeking? We're talking about homeschooling. We're talking about, getting into this thing and bringing your children home out of the public school system, out of the private school system, out of the charter school system. The question is, whose well done are you seeking, right? Because if you take your children out of the public school system, but you're still seeking the well done of the public school system and its administrators, then that's a whole different conversation that will need to be having. And I would say that if you're still looking for their well done, African-centered education is probably not for you. Because I know many of us out there are really, we really just want our children to be smart in a Eurocentric and European kind of sense. We just want them to be smart. We just want them to be able to get a good job later and all that kind of stuff. And I would say that African-centered education is not about that. I would say African-centered education is the kind of education that is geared to secure the survival of a people, right? While allowing our children to use their personal skills and talents for the benefit of our people. So again, before we even get into this conversation, when you're talking about homeschooling, whose well done are you seeking? For me, I'm seeking the well done of my daughter. I'm seeking the well done of those African children who come, in my stead, and who I am charged to help, you know, educate them for liberation. That's who's well done. I'm looking for. I'm seeking the well done of our ancestors. Who didn't have this opportunity to get the kind of education that we have the right and freedom to give our children. That's the well done I'm seeking. I'm not seeking any validation. I'm not seeking any accreditation from anybody outside of African people. Who's well done are you seeking, right? Also, before you even begin to look for curriculum materials and textbooks and all those kind of things, I think you have to ask yourself, what is your homeschool philosophy? And if you really understand your homeschool philosophy, then the resources will show themselves. So if you really just want to have school at home, then textbooks are going to be your way to go, right? You're going to sit your child down at the kitchen table every day for 6 hours. That might be something, you want to do. So you might can just go online and say, we'll do K-12 online, which is going to be a very Eurocentric kind of education, just online and at your home with nobody else there. Hey, do that. Depends on your educational philosophy. If my educational philosophy is that I want my child to discover her purpose, and I want her to have the freedom to really, really go forward with her interests and become an expert and master some things, then I might not need a whole bunch of textbooks, right? I might need some online materials. Maybe I might need to be having her in a situation where she is an apprentice for someone else. So those kind of things are the things that you want to think about when you're thinking about homeschooling resources, right? So number one, why should African people be homeschooling their children? And I say that we should homeschool our children because we have the ability to teach them from an African-centered perspective. Education, it really means the transmission of culture. And if we're going to homeschool, we should be teaching our children or transmitting the culture of ourselves and those who have come before, so that our children can be great vessels of help for those who are yet to come. Right? So I think that's one of the main reasons that the Eurocentric curriculum in the schools ain't helping us. Right? And it's also geared towards our children being, just average, an average child. None of our children are average. They are all extraordinary. They're all different. They're all uncommon. They all have been born with a purpose. They've come here on this particular plane, this earth, this mundane level to do something great. And our education should help them to do that, right? Our education should foster that greatness, not beat them into submission with Eurocentric curriculum as well as, standardized tests after standardized tests, right? So that's number one. One of the reasons is that we can teach our children from an African-centered perspective, right? Number two, we can teach our children to their interests, right? We can teach our children to their interests. That is very, very important. Yes, I have a PhD from a good European school, but I've learned so much more since I've left formal education than I learned in all my years in the public food system, the college food system, and all those kind of things, because I am able to really, really just go hard on my interests. Nobody's telling me what to learn. Nobody's telling me what to read. I read because I want to read. Now, I read over 150 books a year. And all those books I read because I want to read, right? And people ask me, man, how do you read so much? I read every day. That's one of my greatest pastimes. I love to learn. Now, you put me in a classroom and tell me that I have to read something, then it might be a little bit different. I mean, I have the muscle. I can sit down and be quiet for very long periods of time and read. But I would rather be doing that with something that I'm actually interested in, right? So imagine if you go to a restaurant and somebody else orders your meal, right? And then they force you to eat that meal, whether you like it or not. And then as you're eating that meal, they're monitoring your digestion with that meal. How would you feel about that, right? It probably would not be a very good feeling. And it's not a very good feeling for our children to go into schools, in homeschools or cooperatives or whatever, when they're being force-fed knowledge and information that they might not want at that particular moment. You might say, well, they got to learn this, got to learn that. Hey, maybe they have to learn it, maybe they don't have to learn it. But one of the ways you can get them to learn it quickly is to find something interesting and relevant in it. And I think they'll do what they have to do. All right. So another reason that we should homeschool is that we can teach our children to their interests. Right. And we know that the schools, the public school system, charter school system, the private school system, are not interested in our children. They're more interested in those test scores as well as those dollar signs. All right. Number 3, we should homeschool because we can help our children get African civilization instead of Eurocentric socialization. One of the main things that you will hear if you're not homeschooling, if you're thinking about homeschooling, is from your family members and all that kind of stuff is, oh, what about socialization? I mean, come on, the children are gonna be by themselves all day and all that kind of stuff, right? We hear that, right? But I'd rather my child have African civilization than not socialization. I would rather my curriculum be an Africanized, curriculum than that socialized curriculum that they have in the schools. Let's think about the schools for a second. When our children go to school, are they allowed to socialize? How much time are they allowed to socialize and talk to other children? I mean, in the classroom, talk. No, be quiet. You know what I'm saying? Hey, this is not the socializing hour. So you might have a little bit of socializing time at lunch, right? But the lunch is 30 minutes. You probably got to be quiet in the cafeteria, so you're not really socializing, right? In terms of just talking to other people. But you are getting a socialization. There's a socialization process there that teaches our children a great deal about this society, and particularly the society that the school is running. So you have a situation where there is only it's only one right answer. It socializes our children. The schools socialize our children to believe that. It socializes our children to believe that African history, African people are not very valuable. African people ain't done nothing. It socializes our children to believe that because they don't learn anything about us, right? So it's a lot of socialization going on, and I don't even want to talk about the bullying or the sexual things that go on in the schools, the microaggressions that teachers have towards our children, and many times our children can't even articulate the kind of things that are affecting them in the schools when they get home. So socialization is going on there, but it's not the right kind of socialization, right? The kind of civilization that we would want for our children, right? So if we want our children to socialize, homeschoolers have a great opportunity to have their children socialize and with not only their young warriors, socialize with not only other young warriors or children, but also people of different ages, right? The school system is not reality, right? Think about it right now. You think about your job or your place of work, right? Are you working? If everybody that works there, are they all the same age? Are they all learning the same thing at the same time? No, not at all. So schools are very, uncommon, kind of situation our children will be in, right? So that's not the case in the rest of the world. When my daughter, my young warrior, my daughter Noliwe was here with me in Ghana. I mean, she dealt with children her age. She dealt with children who were a lot younger than her, but she also dealt with adults and older children as well, and had those socialization opportunities. And people would always say, she's so smart and she's so articulate, and she's not afraid, to speak her mind and really have a conversation with people who are 7 or 70, right? And I think we should be very, very glad if we homeschool our children to give them those kind of socialization opportunities, not that silliness that goes on in the public school system, right? So number 3 was we can help them get an African civilization instead of that Eurocentric socialization to get to schools. Another one, number 4, is that we can create our own schedule when we're homeschooling, right? One of the things that I hate about school is that school dictates your life as a family. Am I right? Because let's say you want to go on vacation, you got to wait when school is out. Let's say your child sees a very good conference about their particular interest, and they say, hey, I want to go to this conference. And you say, well, you got to go to school, right? Or, you don't have time for that. Also, We don't, a lot of us don't even know our children very well because we see them in the morning, then we feed them breakfast, we put them on a bus, and they go to school. They get home from school, maybe we're not even home yet, but if we are, we see them for a little while, maybe help them with their homework, depends on how much homework they give them, right? They eat dinner, and then they go to sleep. Who's raising your children? Right? We have a situation where we stop, drop, and roll. We stop, we drop our children off, we roll, we come back, or they come home. We don't really know our children. Somebody else is raising our children. But if we are homeschooling, we have the ability to create our own schedule. And our children are unique, as I said. So they are on their own schedule. They're not on anybody else's schedule. Right? Your child is not ahead or behind anyone. They are on their own road. Right? Let's move on. Number 4 was create your own schedule. We're able to do that. Number 5, one of the reasons why we should homeschool is that we can say no to all the drugs that they're trying to put our children on. With this Ritalin, this ADHD stuff, and all that kind of stuff. Our children don't need that, right? Our children, if you want our children to focus, have them do something that they're interested in, and they're focused all day. I wouldn't even be focused in a classroom. If I was in a classroom right now, a high school classroom or whatever, I would probably have ADHD too. They probably would say I have ADHD. I've never been diagnosed with that, but if it's boring, everyone has ADHD. Right? Even you as an adult, right? Even in your meetings at your job, you have ADHD. You better be glad they didn't put you on no medicine, right? Don't give your children that medicine, man. Don't give it to them. Don't give it to them. Our children don't need those psychotropic drugs to focus and all that kind of stuff. Those drugs are just to help the teachers, control their classrooms. And you have to do certain things if you're a teacher and you have 35 children in the classroom. It is like herding cats. Right? It's not a natural environment for our children to learn. It's probably one of the worst places for our children to learn. All right. Number 6, we can create a more nurturing environment. We go into the schools, we see the security guards, we see the metal detectors. We see people who don't look like us teaching our children, who don't care about us teaching our children. So those kind of things are very important for our children. When our children walk into the classroom, they're asking, do you care? Can I trust you? And are you committed? And many of the teachers don't care about our children, and many of our children feel like they can't trust these teachers, and many of them are not committed to them as a people, and are certainly not committed to our community, right? So that's something we have to create a more nurturing environment when we homeschool our children, right? Also understand this: a plant, no matter how healthy, can survive in contaminated soil. African wisdom teaches us that. I'll say it again. A plant, no matter how healthy, can survive in contaminated soil. So now our children are going to these schools and these environments. These environments are poison to them, right? And so our children begin to act out, right? Understand that just because your child acts a certain way in the public food system, don't mean they're gonna act that way when they get home with you, and you're homeschooling them. You might say, man, my child is, these people are calling me every other day. This boy's gonna be a handful, if I get him at home. Nah, it's a context thing, right? If the context is telling me that it doesn't love me, right, I'm going to show them no love in return. But if my child gets home and they know that I love them, they know I have the best interest, for them, then there might be a totally different situation going on. Again, the context is very, very important. Let's move on to the last one of the whys of why we should be homeschooled. Number 7, really it's just time for us to make a change. These people have proven over and over and over and over again that they are not even capable of educating our children at all. Even in their own, they can't educate our children in their own Eurocentric curriculum. They can't even educate their own children in their own Eurocentric curriculum. Right? There was a recent study that said that over 60% of high school graduates, no matter the color or or race or whatever, have to take remedial classes when they get to the college level. What does that tell you? That tells you that the high schools are not doing very, very well, even for the people who they're made for, right? But also, we know that our children, over 50% of Black children who enter 9th grade don't graduate high school. So they're telling us, these stats are telling us, our community is showing us that their schools ain't for us We have to build something ourselves. We build our own schools. We start our own cooperatives, and we homeschool our own children. That's reason enough right there, because they ain't doing a very good job, right? And we say America is I think 18th in the last PISA test, which tests I think is 15-year-olds across the world on different things. So America is not the top anyway. So we need more than what their educational system can give us. And guess what? We can do that. We can do that if we homeschool our own children. It's like the new Underground Railroad, yo. We trying to get free, and we can never get free if we don't even control the minds and the educational socialization of our children, right? So that is the whys. Tell me which one. Tell me which one you enjoyed the most, or you resonated with the most. So we had number one. We teach from an African-centered perspective. We can teach from an African-centered perspective. Number two, we can teach our children through their interests. Number three, we can help them, get African civilization instead of that Eurocentric socialization, that they get. And many times in that Eurocentric socialization, our children get so much internalized racism. Man, talk about talk to our children about Africa, right? And see, what they think. And then you ask them, where'd you get that idea from? So much internalized racism comes from that Eurocentric socialization and curriculum that they get at the schools. Number four, we can create our own schedule, right? And stop letting the schools dictate our life, right? Number five, you can say no to all those drugs that they're putting our children on. Number six, we can create a more nurturing environment. And number seven, it is just about time. Stop talking that black talk. Stop talking that black talk even in front of your children. Stop talking bad about this public food system and then send them right back to that place. Right? You can do it. That's why Kamali Academy, that's why I am here as well, to help you navigate this whole situation and give your child an education for liberation. Right? So let's get into quickly the how. Okay? How do you do it? Number one, I would say, again, think about where you're trying to go, like playing backwards. Identify what your desired results are. Again, as Amos Wilson asked us, what kind of children, what kind of young warriors do we need to solve the kind of problems that we have, right? You start with that. I know we need some warriors that read well. I know we need some warriors that write well. I know we need some warriors that communicate well. I know we need some warriors that manipulate numbers well. I know we need some warriors that creatively think. I know we need some warriors that love themselves and love other African people so that they can work with other African people to liberate ourselves, our physical bodies, as well as our mental state from the colonization that we've been under for a very, very long time. That's what I know. That's the kind of results I'm trying to get, right? So if we understand the desired results we're trying to get, let's now deal with and determine what kind of acceptable evidence would we accept, right? So that's another question. So are we just, if we say we need children who critically think, are we just going to give them a standardized test and say, okay, well, I guess they critically think? Is that good enough evidence that they critically think? I don't think so, right? When you go and get your driver's license, they don't give you, they give you a written test, yes, but they also give you what? The actual driving test. They actually see if you can actually do the thing that you say you know how to do, right? So we have to give that opportunity to our children. We have to watch them and see if they're developing good relationships. We have to watch them and see if they're really thinking critically. We have to watch them to see if they're communicating well through the written medium as well as through the verbal medium. We have to watch them and see if they have a love of reading. And we also have to be an example of those things as well, because you are the curriculum, number one, right? And so that's one way to get started, right? So we look at what we're trying to get, the desired results. We also, determine what is going to be acceptable evidence of the fact that they've learned it. And then we just plan out the learning experiences. We plan out the things that we want our children to do to get the kind of knowledge that we would like them to have, right? All right, so also, let's get rid of grades. I said it. Let's get rid of grades, right? So, so many people, particularly on the Book of Face around this time, children are going to the next grade and they're graduating and all that kind of stuff. And people are saying, hey, my child had a 4.0 and all that. That's nice. So my question is, does your child really, really equally understand all those different subjects? Or has your child learned how to play the game in school? Has your child learned how to give the teachers what they want? That's a question, that I have, right? Because grades, I think grades are for the most part meaningless, right? Because they're not objective. It just depends on what you are, what you are testing at what time. You see, I would rather you keep a portfolio for your child, because a test is a snapshot, right? But a portfolio it just gives you so much more. Just gives you so much more in terms of really understanding what your child can do and what they can't do. And also it shows you what their progress. If you have one grade, if you just give a child a B or an A or a C or D, whatever, that tells you where the child is maybe at that moment. Maybe. I doubt if it tells you where it is at that moment, but where that child is at that moment. But maybe it does, right? But it doesn't tell you what that child's um, potential is. It doesn't tell you much about what that child's interest is. It doesn't tell you what that child could be later on. It doesn't tell you all the context within the classroom why that child got that B or that C or that D or that F. It doesn't tell you all that, right? So again, that test is just a simple snapshot. We want to have a portfolio over multiple, months or even years to see where our children are, right? So get rid of that, man. There are multiple ways for our children to demonstrate their ability in subjects and their knowledge of subjects. Let's research those and have our children do that. Stop giving them A's, B's, and C's and D's. Do you get an A, a B, or a C as a parent? Probably not. As a friend? Probably not. But you know whether or not you're a good friend. You know whether or not you're a good parent, right? So we just have to watch our children use a portfolio instead of grades. All right. Number two, another how is to integrate the subjects and delve deeply into topics. So I said again, integrate the subjects and delve deeply into topics. This European thing of having English and then math and then science and our story and whatever, that's really unnatural, because the world we live in is very much integrated in terms of the knowledge we have, right? So what we talking about today at B448, obviously at BI. We were talking about today. We're talking about miseducation. And then the other day we were talking about the sun, right? So we were dealing with the sun. Now, of course, that's science. You got the solar system. You got the moon, revolving around, orbiting around the sun also. So we got the moon phases that we can deal with. We got the seasons. And then we also have math, and the sun is 93 billion miles away from the earth. What's the circumference of the sun? What's the circumference of the earth? We have all these different things that we can do. We also have the our story piece. How did the ancient Kemetic people feel about the sun? We see that they believe that the Ankh comes from the sun, which is a symbol of life. So we got our story in there. We have people, we have our children understand that those ancient Kemetic folks call themselves the children of the sun. And they understood that the sun gave life to everything, and without that sun, we would not even be here. So we got so much that we can talk about with that one topic of the sun. So why say we only gonna learn about the sun in science? Let's learn about the sun in our story and see how people across the world over time have viewed the sun, right? Not the S-O-N, but the Son of God, the S-U-N of God, right? And so you can integrate all of those things into that topic without having to say, all right, now this is science, now we go into math, now we go into English, now we go into our story, right? Read some things that have some literature that has the sun as a central part of it, and we'll get a different perspective, right? So integrate topics as much as possible, and delve deeply into topics, and not just say, have a curriculum that's a mile wide and, as they say, an inch deep, right? I'd rather my children go deeply into a few topics and learn all they can than to have just a little bit of information that you probably gonna forget anyway, that you already forgot from your school. I would rather them, go deep, right? So another one is give them some choice. Give them some choice. African wisdom teaches us that if you want to know how fast a child can go, send them where they want to go. Give them some choice on where they go. Give them some choice in what they learn. And I think we'll see much more from our children, right? Say more about that, but let's move on. So I want to get to the Q&A questions, the Q&A session. All right. Also, I would say forget testing. Forget testing. Stop testing your children, right? Life is full of tests, yes, but life is not full of bubble sheet answer tests. So stop giving them those kind of tests. But should you review with your children? Absolutely. I would say you should review weekly, right? Review with your children. Have them, reflect on the things that they have learned for that week or even that day. So and reviewing will help them to stave off forgetting, right? You haven't reviewed, some things from high school, middle school, and all that kind of stuff for a very, very long time. I bet you don't know it. I bet you probably forgot most of it after you took the test that you studied for, right? We know how that goes. So we don't want to just be forcing our children to learn stuff and take tests on stuff that they really are going to forget later on anyway. We got to make sure our curriculum is relevant and African centered for our children. Let's move on, right? Also, I would say trust yourself. Nobody gave you a degree to be a parent. But for some reason, we have so many parents, I never did any teaching, so I don't have a degree in it. So I was just wondering, do you think it'll be? Yes, you are the first teacher of your children, right? And again, you are the curriculum, and you are teaching whether or not you know it or not. The way you handle business, you're teaching. The way you talk to your spouse is teaching. The way you handle letdowns is teaching. Whether or not your children sees you, reading books, you're teaching. Right? Trust yourself, and don't doubt yourself because you forgot many of the irrelevant things that they taught you in school. That's one of the biggest issues that we have. I find with parents is that they don't think they can do it because they forgot so much of the garbage that was taught to them. Right? And I tell them, don't teach that garbage to your children. Find a better way. Right? And lastly, stop comparing. Stop comparing your children to other people. Right? Stop comparing yourself as a person to other people. Right? Other people are on different journeys. Your journey is your journey. There's multiple pathways again to success and expertise and all that kind of stuff. There's multiple paths to do very well in business. Stop comparing yourself to other people. Stop comparing your children to other people. There's a quote that I read recently. It said that comparison is the thief of all joy. Comparison is the thief of all joy. So many parents hit me up, oh, my son is behind in reading. Behind who? Oh, my son, or my daughter is having a tough time in math. She's supposed to be on this grade level, but she's on this grade level. Who cares about what anybody else says is the standard? Again, all those standards were made by other people, not for African people, and those standards are for some average child somewhere which does not exist. Our children are on their own pathway. Treat them as such. They have their own purpose. Nurture them like they do. Right? There will be a great tree of tomorrow that will give shade to a lot of folks if we only nurture them the right way. Right? So hopefully we got something out of that. The why and how of African-centered homeschooling. My name is Baba Dr. Brother Samori Kamara. So I want to answer some of your questions right now. So I'm going to look here in the live chat and answer some of those questions. Let me go up to the top real quick and see what we got. All right, I see one. We have, what books, spines do you use for elementary history? I start with, a resource that we provide at Kamali Academy. I start with 50 Africans You Must Know. We have volume 1 and volume 2 will be out later this week or even next week. So we start with a person, so we'll go with Marcus Garvey and we'll just delve deeply into Marcus Garvey for a week. But of course, if you're covering Marcus Garvey, you're gonna cover Du Bois, and you're gonna cover Booker T. Washington, and you're gonna cover Madam C.J. Walker. You're gonna cover so many other people, but also other topics. You're gonna cover Pan-Africanism. You're gonna cover Black nationalism. You're gonna cover all these things that African children should know about. So that's what I would say first and foremost. That's Jasmine McGee. One thing I use is, of course, 50 Africans You Must Know, volume 1, and we'll be using volume 2 soon, and you can get that at KamaliAcademyStore.com. But I also have used in the past Molefi Asante's, Dr. Molefi Asante's African American History, A Journey to Liberation. I think that's what it's called. It's over there on my shelf. Again, Dr. Malefi Asante's African American History, A Journey to Liberation. So check that out for your elementary history class. Right now, we're using that Abibi Hodie Adesuya via the African Center School here in Ghana. We are using, and I'm teaching, the Our Story class. We are using From the Browder Files, 22 essays from Anthony Browder. So again, that's From the Browder File. Let me type that over here. So we have 50 Africans you must know. All right. We have Molefi Asante's book, Asante's African American History. Typing slow. And what did I just say? From the Browder File from Anthony Browder. From the Browder File. All right. Those three things right there can go a long way because those folks deal with a lot of things in those books. Okay. All right. Let's see what's next. So we got that elementary textbooks, readings, family. How do you teach an African language and music? I would say one of the best ways to teach an African language is to go to a country that speaks it, right? Spend some time there. One of the reasons why I don't know very much Spanish or very much French is because the way we learn it in the classroom is whack. Here's what you do. You learn phrases first and foremost. Don't learn grammar first. Don't even worry about the grammar. You learn phrases first, and you begin to speak with folks. Find somebody in that country, or find somebody around you. Find somebody in the country where you can do like Skype sessions with who speak the language. Learn phrases, right? And then you can get later on, you can get into the grammar and all that kind of stuff and understand how the phrases are put together. But that's number one. I would just learn a phrase and then go to a place and ask. That's one question over and over and over until I get a good hang of it, right? So here in Ghana, one of the things I would do is I would always talk to the taxi drivers when I first got here, and one of the things I would ask the taxi drivers was "Waware," which means "Are you married?" And so they would give me different answers, and I would ask all these different taxi drivers. So I learned a whole conversational little chunk just from asking that question, right? And I learned so much of the language, from that way. So African language. Also, I would say go to a place like memrise.com. Memrise.com. Also, you have Abibi Hodie. I'm sorry, Abibi Tumikasa. Brother Dr. Obadale Cambone, him and his wife, we created the cooperative here together. This brother is fluent in like 8 or 9 African languages. He has many resources. We have his tree, which is the most popular language here in Ghana. We have that resource as a part of our curriculum at Kamali Academy. All right. So in terms of African music, I guess it depends on if you're talking about an instrument or different types of African music. Let's deal with the instrument first. Find some people that do African drums. Find some people that teach African musical instruments, and go have your child go and learn it. If you're talking about the music, I would say listen. Get your hands on as much African music as possible. Allow your child, your young warrior, to be introduced to it, and teach, the culture that the music comes from, because it'll teach you a great deal about who the people are and how the people view the world. But also, yeah, man, just listen to the music. Just listen to the music and study the artists and study the culture, right? So let's move on. Let's move on. Let's see. Let's see. Somebody graduated from SU. How you doing, sister? Go ahead on Jaguar. All right. What books are good authors to teach young children Swahili? So I would say, you know, try memrise.com. Look for those resources out there. But I would say I don't think a book would be good. I think going to talk with folks who speak the language would be better. I would learn some phrases again and try to get somebody on Skype who speak the language well and have those practice sessions. Maybe even 30 minutes a week or something like that would be good. Let's see another question. So we have a question from Smokey about teaching textbooks as a math curriculum. Teaching textbooks as a math. Again, I'm not really a big fan of textbooks. I used to like the Saxon math though. The Saxon math. Let me put that there. The Saxon math, and of course, I'm gonna say Kamali Academy mental math class. You know what I mean? Because that right there will help your children, master the multiplication, addition, subtraction, and division very, very quickly and mentally, so they'll have enough brain power to deal with any other math concepts that they learn over the time, right? Um, but I would say that we use a great deal of Khan Academy as well, man. We have our children learn our mental math skills, and then we put them on Khan Academy so that they can really, really master, the different concepts as they go, and we can really see what they have mastered and what they still need trouble with. It's a great tool to use for you if you are, trying to be a guide for your child. That you don't have to sit in front of your child all day writing on the board, and explaining to them. You can watch the videos together if you have some issues, and you can learn together. And that's a beautiful thing for your children. So right now, I would say we use a lot again of our mental math as well as Khan Academy. And if you have to go with a textbook, I would say Saxon math. Check those out. All right, let's see. Yes, if you posted any questions in the email or on the website, please repost them here. I thought the questions would be actually there on the website under the video so I could see them, but they went right into my email. Sorry about that. Let's see. Thank you so much, Sister Stephanie Joe. We're glad your children and you love our books. Want your children to have common sense, absolutely, which is not so common anymore. So Smokey also is in another city and is afraid that his or your daughter will be lonely. Man, go to your local black bookstore. Go to your local library. Go to your community center. A black community center. Where you are, so that you can be able to meet people. Our child shouldn't be lonely no matter where they are. Whatever your child's interest is, go and find those groups in the particular city that you're in, and I'm sure they'll find people who they have like minds with and begin to be friends with, right? Let's see. I bought K-12 curriculum. Do you have any pre-K worksheets? We do have pre-K worksheets. Glowworm. We do have pre-K worksheets at kamaliacademy.com/homeschool. Online curriculum. Calling me. Oh, that's my mama. I'm gonna call you back. Online curriculum, but it's a part of the curriculum, right? And with the curriculum, you get access to from pre-K all the way up to 8th grade curriculum, and it's a weekly kind of joint, so you get all those things right there, and along with those worksheets. Let's see what else we got here. Not many Africans in your area, Smokey. Find the ones that are there. Let's see. Smokey's in Florida. Any other questions? Let's see. Yes, definitely have a lot of African American homeschool groups in and on Facebook. Great Malcolm X quote: "Only a fool will let his enemy teach his children." Man, if we just live by that quote right there, I think we'd be all right as a people. But of course, we're not. Only a fool will let his enemy. But I guess we don't believe that other people are really our enemy. African people are some of the most, forgiving folks you ever meet in your life. People can show us over and over and over that they mean us no good, but we'll still send our children to it. All right. Sister says she homeschools in order to hang out with her children more and allow them to discover who they are and what they like. Absolutely. So many of our children are in schools, and when you take them out to homeschool and you ask them, what do you like and what are you interested in, many of them would not know because they haven't been asked that question very much. They get so used to being told what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and and also getting the grade for it. So many times we have to have time to detox our children from the public food system, charter food system, or the private food system before we can really, really get into our homeschooling. And to detox, I would just say, hey, allow them to learn what they want to learn about. Kind of step back a little bit and just allow them to learn and let them see that education can happen outside of that classroom. And guess what? Meaningful education can happen outside of that classroom. The best education happens outside of the classroom. And I would say that if you want to improve education, eliminate the classroom. Yeah. Let's see. So Melanie, you got to get back to homeschooling, yo. I see we see people who are connected here. We got people in Chattanooga, Tennessee, as well as Memphis. It's a beautiful thing. So Smokey says older daughter is a senior in the public food system. Um, you're gonna let her finish because she's in the IB program. She has the most book store. She is the most book smart child, but lacks common sense. I still love her. We love her too, brother. It's never too late, though. It's never too late. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Good. Jasmine has a good idea for the portfolios, putting the information from the beginning of the year, the middle of the year, and then end of the year. Okay. Thank you to Smokey and Jasmine and Melody. Y'all are on it over here. Do you have a book list broken down by grade? I don't have a book list broken down by grade. I don't believe in grades. Who says there should be 12 grades, right? Who says our children have to start in first grade and then go to second grade and then go to third grade? All these things were created by people who don't look like us, who can care less about us. People who really had an idea about education that was really the factory model of education that each grade would put into our children at each station certain information, then they move on to the next to be continually polished and made into good workers for a factory job somewhere, right? I don't have one that's broken down into by grade, but we do have a great reading list on KamaliAcademy.com. We have a bunch of books, and we break it down for like middle school, high school, adults, as well as the young learners. Okay, because think about grades, like if I have a second grade child, does that mean she can't read third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade books? She can't read books higher than that. So we just don't really even really deal with the grades, man. Those things are arbitrary in many ways. Okay, got a little chicken lap book going on. Let's see. So Glowworm says that her favorite story for her 3-year-old is the Anansi the Spider stories. Again, that's coming out of Ghana. So the Anansi stories are great stories to use for our children. And I would say that early on in our children's education, we have to put our own black mind, our own African mind into them first before we allow them to be poisoned by that European garbage, right? We have any kind of literature that our children could ever, desire to read. If you want to read fiction, you want to read, science fiction and all those kind of things, we have that. You want to read autobiographies and nonfiction books, we have that. We have everything our children need with our own black writers and African writers. We don't have to go outside of ourselves for any of that stuff, right? We want to teach our children the elements of fiction and all that kind of stuff and give them real models of great writing. Then we have it in our own community. We don't have to go outside of ourselves for any of those things. All right? Let's see. So yeah, the book list. I mean, just put of course, the website for Kamali Academy. It's on there. If you just search our blog, you'll see the book list. All right? Trusting yourself is definitely big. It's very, very important. All right? And you know your child better than anybody else does. And I tell parents that all the time who call me and they ask me for my advice on their children. I say, I don't know your child. You know your child very well. So So that should be you. I can give you some general ideas, that has worked for me in the past and all those kind of things. But again, I don't know your particular child, so I always ask parents, what's your child's interest? What does your children like to do? And then we go from there in terms of curriculum and all that kind of stuff. Where we at? Sorry, where we go? I lost something here. Let's see. Okay, how do you go about getting tests like the SAT and others just to compare? I'm sure you can call your school system, the district that you're in, to get those tests. We tell parents, if you have to take the test, you can go ahead on and call the school system early, and they'll allow your child to take the standardized test with their age group, during testing time. I guess that would be in March or April during the year. So you can do that, and again, you can try to compare your children to other people. But again, comparison is the thief of all joy. Stop comparing your children. Our children are on their own level. If you want your child to take the SAT, I'm sure you can look online and find out when those things are going to be. That should be very, very easy. And we can have our children prep for those tests at the end, right before, they take those things. But if we do our job well, if we allow our children to really, really go for their focus, go for their interests, also teach them from an African-centered perspective, those tests should be pretty, fairly easy for our children. But of course, our children don't like the education that they're getting in the schools, or they imbibe the information just so they can get past. So of course, they don't do well on those standardized tests that come on later. Okay. You can contact me at kamaliacademy@gmail.com for the interview Astro Gardner. kamaliacademy@gmail.com. Yeah. So testing is fine. Your child will go to college. Really, the only test they would need to go to college is the SAT or the ACT. And if your state doesn't have a law where you can give your own curriculum, your own diploma, then maybe the GED. But you don't have to keep on testing your child every, all the time with those standardized tests that they give them in the public school system, right? Again, should your child review what they've learned? Yes, because that is the way you continue to have that information there if there's constant review. Because if not, then they'll forget. And you get mad when you say, didn't we just learn this last week? Didn't we just learn this last month? How you don't remember? Because I haven't used it, because it wasn't relevant, right? And you didn't review it, right? So make sure you continue to review, all through the year. Make sure that's really a big part of your homeschool. Okay, let's see. Mm-mm-mm-mm. It depends on Melanie. It depends on what state you're in. She asks, should she contact the school district to let them know she plans to withdraw her daughters? It just depends on the school system or a state you're in. Go to Homeschooling Legal Defense Association website, which is hslda.org. I just put it up there so you'll see it, and go to your state, and you'll see everything you need to do for that particular state. As a brother just said, or a sister, you file a letter of intent with the school board, or send it to the state board of education, letting them know that you're homeschooling your child, and that should be really, really about it. Okay, let's move on. Yeah, I can provide a list of books and supplies that should be purchased. I guess for each grade, but we really don't do the grades. We do levels, and so yeah, I can definitely provide that at some point. Hit me up at kamaliacademy@gmail.com for that. Okay, the brother or sister asks, Smokey asks, should I teach any U.S. history? I really don't want to, but I don't want to stifle her if she ever has to take an assessment test at some point. Sure, I mean, African people are part of U.S. history. right? And so if we learn about the enslavement of our people, we're gonna learn about a whole bunch of U.S. history. We're gonna learn about that racist, Abraham Lincoln. We're gonna learn about that fool George Washington. We're gonna learn about Andrew Jackson. We're gonna learn about Thomas Jefferson. We're gonna learn about Harriet Beecher Stowe and all these folks. We're gonna learn about all those folks, because that is a part of our story. But we learn about it from our perspective. We learn about it, to not to venerate these folks, not to honor these folks, but to just get clarity on who these folks were and what kind of impact they had on African people. That's why we do what we do, right? So, U.S. history will be there. If you learn about Malcolm X, you probably gonna have to learn about, World War II. You're gonna learn about Lyndon Baines Johnson and JFK. You're gonna learn about these folks. If you learn about Robert F. Williams, again, World War II, the Cold War, and all those different things are going to be a part of your curriculum if you're learning that. So that's U.S. history. All right, so it'll be there. Do I offer a high school grammar curriculum? Not at this moment. Not at this moment. The only thing I would say about the high school at this moment, you would notice that we don't have much going on with high school on our online curriculum. There's a reason for that. There's a very, very good reason for that because, again, I'm not down with the grades, and I think children should have an opportunity to study their own interests. And I'm not breaking it down into this is science, this is math, and this is our story, and this is English. Those subjects are really integrated. So our children at the high school level should be delving really more into topics, right? And into ideas, into concepts, and then learning their math, their science, their our story coming out of that. And they should be also focusing on their interests. As a ninth grade, as a 14-year-old, come on, in African society, that person is working at that time. That person is bringing in income for the family. I think we coddle our children, a long time by keeping them in that high school kind of system. So at 14, they should already have a business, and then they should be studying things that they are very much interested in and going, and going forward in that way. That's why we don't have much in terms of the high school curriculum, because our children should be writing. They should be producing their own writing by that time. They should know the basics of grammar, and once they have that, now go practice writing and do it over and over and over again. So you can get better at communicating in that realm. So there's a lot of grammar rules. A lot of them I break. I was an English major, of course, coming out of undergrad. I've written books, and I talk and all that kind of stuff, and I communicate. But a lot of times, those grammar things are some things that we don't necessarily use. We don't necessarily have to have them within our writing for our writing to be good, for our writing to be succinct, for our writing to be engaging. Right. So that's why we don't have that much for high school, because we know that our children need to have a relevant kind of situation where they're dealing with their interests, as well as getting some apprenticeship opportunities, as well as starting their own businesses. OK, let's see. Where are we at? Where are we at? Where are we at? We got a lot of stuff coming in. Beautiful. I'm gonna have to send that link to you. Maybe I'll put the link to the book list on this video after we're done. You're talking about, do we have to purchase other programs, Spelling City, etc., that was referenced in our homeschool curriculum book? If you feel the need to, I've grown to understand that we need our children to have, if they're going to do spelling, kind of things and vocabulary, the vocabulary should be connected to the things that we are learning. It should be relevant. The vocabulary shouldn't just be random words that we just think they should know. Right. The context is always important, and the context helps our children remember those things. Right. Let's see. If Jasmine, you found the book list. Can you put the book list in the chat? The link to the book list in the chat. That would be great. Jasmine McGee, thank you so much. What are my thoughts on the 6 weeks on 1 week off year-round school schedule. I love it. And again, the beauty of having an African-centered education and homeschooling is that you can create your own schedule and you can find a schedule that is right for your child. So this person is talking about having 6 weeks where they're doing their homeschooling, and then they take a week off, and then they come back for another 6 weeks, and then they take another week off all year round. That's a beautiful thing, right? Whatever works for you and your family. Okay. All right. So she says, if you just go to Kamali Academy and just search booklets for young warrior scholars, and it'll come up. Okay. What's the best way to keep the portfolio organized? I mean, this depends on what kind of person you are. If you want to have all the papers there, you keep it in folders or a file cabinet and all those kind of things, but also you can keep an electronic portfolio for your children where you'll scan the things that they do and you'll keep those that way. I love the app and note-taking system called Evernote. I love Evernote. It's a great, great system. My life is on Evernote. So Evernote, note-taking system, note-taking app is great to use. And you can keep all your stuff there for your children. You have notebooks and different things, and it's a beautiful thing. All right, let's see. Let's see. Why can't so his brother Smokey says was talking with my 7-year-old daughter, 7-year-old, about slavery, and she says, why can't we just make white people slaves? That's crazy. That's crazy. Yo, the questions, the questions that our children ask are beautiful. We were having a discussion at Abibi Fahori Adesuya Bia here in Accra, Ghana, and one of the students asked, "Yo, man, are white people human?" Because we were having a discussion about how humans came into be, how Europeans came into be, who was the first people. Of course, we were African people first, and then we migrated into different places and all that kind of stuff. So she was seriously asking, are white people human? If you think about the fact that the word human means hue, which a colored person, right, colored man, and Europeans don't necessarily have a color, but and I said also, but they turn pink, they turn yellow, they turn purple, and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, it's a very interesting dynamic when you begin to engage your children in those kind of conversations, man, because they ask great questions. And for the student, I say, wow, that's interesting that you ask, are white people human? Because now we get into the realm of philosophy. What makes a person human? And so now we're just talking about evolution. We're talking about how people came into being, and now that's science, that's our story, but that's also now philosophy that we can go deep into, right? And you're not getting those kind of conversations in the public school system. Let's see. What about cooking, auto mechanic, plumbing, carpentry, and sewing? All right, absolutely. Our children should have all those things, should have all those, especially if they're interested in them. Why not? Do we not need chefs? Do we not people who just know how to cook? Some of these sisters out here, y'all ain't teaching these young girls how to cook, so you're not gonna be very good, very good wives around here. Anyway, but definitely cook. One of the students at Abibi for Hodie, Adesuya Bia, young sister Essence. She's a chef. She's a vegan chef, right? She's learning to sew. She does so many different things. I'm in awe of the young sister already. I think she's only 13. So you don't have to wait for those things. Our young warriors should have all those skills, all the skills that they desire, because we always need those things. Let's see. Right. I have a whole PhD. I'm gonna tell you a story. It's crazy. I have a whole PhD, man, and I came out of my PhD program and I didn't know, the whole little saying of righty tighty, lefty loosey. I was blown away when I learned that, yo. So I was always dealing with screws up until that time. Like even on my car, like when I would change the tire, I was just dealing with them. Like, okay, I think you go this way. I didn't even know that simple rule. That's crazy, right? With a whole PhD, didn't know righty tighty, lefty loosey. So you don't want our children out there with that kind of nonsense, right? Let's see. So, do you need anything? Do you need to purchase anything when you get our online curriculum? Yeah, there's a couple things that we suggest. Of course, with our online curriculum, you would definitely need our 50 Africans you must know. Definitely get that. Definitely get that. But you also, when you join our online curriculum, you get a 20% discount at our store, KamaliAcademyStore.com. Right? Should skills training be mandatory post secondary before university? Mandatory? I don't know about mandatory. I don't know about mandatory because everybody don't need to know the same things. I don't think. A brother who wants to know about sewing, about sewing, might not be the brother who wants to know about auto mechanics, and the brother who wants to know about plumbing might not be the brother who wants to know about sewing or auto mechanics or cooking. Right? Allow our children to just delve into their interests and go hard on it. Maybe make it mandatory that they learn some kind of skill, but we don't necessarily say, hey, it's mandatory that you learn all of these different things. So maybe. Right? Yeah, I would, he says, my daughters and I learn how to crochet from watching YouTube videos. So simple. Right? So again, it's so much information out there for our children and for us as a people to really educate ourselves. So we don't need textbooks. The world is at our fingertips with the internet, and of course the world is our classroom. Travel as much as you can, and allow your children. You're talking about the civil rights movement. Go to some of the places where these things happen. Go to some of the museums, in those particular cities and learn, and your children will do well for it. Okay, let's see. Stephanie Joe, I haven't heard of the logic of English. I'm not sure what that is. I'll look into it, but I haven't heard of the logic of English at this point. Absolutely, a lot of those skills our children should have. And they should be doing those things on a daily basis, like cooking, doing laundry, and all those things. Absolutely, no doubt about it. Any reference for African spirituality? One of the best books on African spirituality that I've ever read, particularly because I'm more inclined to the Akan spiritual system here in Ghana, is a book called On Becoming the Ancestors. On Becoming the Ancestors. My bookshelf is over there. I am not going to get up and go get it. But it's there, On Becoming the Ancestors. Great book. Check that out. Beautiful. Q Stream University, Dr. Quinn says that my kids got a cake business as a part of our homeschool curriculum. Beautiful. Your child has so I don't I don't know. I know you don't recommend testing, but I was thinking about doing the Cali achievement once a year just to see if they're retaining the information. Right? If the child has ADD, is this method best? Best is relative. That's not my purview right there. But again, this is your child. You know your child better than I do. Try it out. See how it goes. Experiment with it. If it goes well, continue. If it doesn't, leave it alone. Right? Our children. One of the things that really hampers our children in terms of the testing is the anxiety that comes with it and all the pressure we put on them when it comes to those testing. So if you don't put all that anxiety in there, you don't put all that pressure in there, then it might work very well. What are your recommendations for teaching children with learning disabilities? The question is, what is a learning disability? And is it truly a learning disability? So that's a great question. I think we should do a whole webinar on that idea because so many of our children are coming from the public school system and they're branded with that. You have a learning disability. So Amos Wilson talks about the time system alone in the schools is what hampers our children in many ways. So the time system, our children come from homes where so-called standard English, which is there's no standard English, but so-called standard English is not spoken, right? And they go to school and they got 45 or 50 minutes to learn English. And if they don't get it, then they're labeled learning disabled. Whereas a white child, they're in their homes, they're learning so-called standard English, and they go in there for 45 minutes or 50 minutes and they're just polishing up their skills. Just like our children are not going to, learn that particular language as fast as other people learn it, because they're just not, they don't have as much exposure to that particular language. If you're talking about, language in English, for example. So learning disabilities, it's interesting, because I would have to ask the question, do they have a learning disability in every subject? Is it in all contexts that they have learning disabilities, or is it in one particular context? Is it when we try to sit them down at the kitchen table and have them do textbook work, or or something else? Do they have a learning disability when they learn how to play a video game? That might be something to think about, right? I need to delve more into that conversation. Maybe we'll do a webinar on that. Thank you, Kimberly. Great session. Go ahead on and get to work, girl. Let's see. So we're gonna do, let's say, about 11 more minutes. It's gonna be, that'll be 12:45 a.m. for me here in Ghana. So we go about 11 more minutes, and then we'll finish, and we'll adjourn for the night. And I'll see you again. So we'll actually be doing a weekly conference call. I think that will be good. A weekly conference call. Please go to our website. If you're not on our mailing list already, sign up for our mailing list so you can know when that's happening. Let's do a couple more questions. Great comment from Jasmine McGee about, I don't think it's necessarily only because different curriculums introduce different items at different times. So that test could give the illusion of being quote unquote behind, but they're really not behind. Sister Erin Jahi, good to see you. We've been on for, I don't even know, at least a good hour and 15 minutes so far. And the sister Erin says she recommends diagnostic tests versus standardized tests. I like that as well. In our online curriculum, we have a couple diagnostic tests, assessment tests that will kind of tell you where your child is in terms of grade levels, by European standards. All right. Good. Definitely get that garden and learn as much as you can about medicinal effects of certain herbs growing and planting seeds. Beautiful. Let's see. Sorry. Where are we? Lakeisha Johnson. Can you recommend any visual aids in terms of music, movies, YouTube videos, plays, etc., to support our story lessons? Man, there's so much. I'll keep that. I'll circle that. You know what? Let me do this right now. Let me go ahead on and copy and paste some of the things that I want to be able to give to you in the future. So I'll put that together and send it out to everybody. Okay. If we do go the route of not testing, can you serve as a licensed teacher to write the evaluation letter, since we're using your online curriculum? Sorry, I used to do that, but since I've moved to Ghana, I've let my my teaching certificate or teaching license lapse, so I wouldn't be able to write those evaluation letters at this moment. Let's see. All right. Going to your email regarding your international trips to Africa. Would like to see the motherland next year for my 19th year wedding anniversary. Come on to the mother continent, brother or sister. We are here. We are waiting. We are ready for you to come back home and enjoy yourself and really get a feel for what it's like to be on the African continent. It's a beautiful thing. I'm enjoying myself. A lot of people, wonder about the internet. I'm on the internet right now, from Ghana, communicating with you, and my businesses that I run are very internet intensive. So you got that. You got good people. You got good fruit. You got good weather, hot weather. You're not gonna get the cold weather at least. It's a beautiful thing, man, and it's good to just to wake up every morning and be like, yo, I live in Africa, and it's something that has been on my mind for a long time. And I decided to to make that trip, and I recommend many of you to do the same. At least come to visit, so you can check it out for yourself and bring your children along. It'll be a great experience for them. All right. Do I have any contacts in Tanzania? I think I do. I think I do. Sister Jasmine, hit me up on an email, and I'll try to get those to you. All right. I would love some live middle school courses about your repatriation experience. See, here, it's the way my bank account works, the way this repatriation thing works, and of course, living here in Ghana is that the times are so off. So right now, it's 12:40 a.m. For me here in Ghana, and trying to set things up where it'll be a good time for me to have live classes has been a challenge for me at this moment. But also, I don't do many live classes because I think it's good for parents to have a great deal of flexibility in terms of their homeschooling. So maybe we'll do some self-paced classes on my repatriation experience. Sister Erin Jahi, hit me up and we can talk about how to put those things together. Okay, let's see. For the online curriculum, you pay, it's one fee for the family. So you'll pay, the cost for the family, and you'll get access to all of it. Yep, definitely on demand courses, definitely. And I'm sure your 7-year-old Smokey will love to see her people here. One of the things my daughter No Leeway said she loved about being here in Ghana, she said all the African people, Baba. You just see all the African people, beautiful African people are all around you. There's other people here too. They're not, it's not plentiful, but they are here. And it's funny when African people, who have been born in America or any other places talk about coming to Africa and talk about, oh, it's so dangerous, so this and so that. I'm like, yo, even with all that you're saying, even though most of that is not true, these other folks are here. They're chilling. They're getting it. And we're waiting for something. I don't know what we're waiting for before we come. All right. Cool. So I want to say again, thank you, so much for coming out to this particular webinar and listening. The why and how African-centered homeschooling. We dealt with a couple of things here, and hopefully it has served you in some way and inspired you in others. If you want more information about educating our children from African-centered perspective, if you would like even homeschool coaching, we can do different sessions with me personally. You can go to kamaliacademy.com and check out the coaching section there. Again, we also have Kamali academystore.com where you can look at some of our resources. Just last week, we put out a unit study on Baba Malcolm, on Malcolm X, El Haj Malik El Shabazz. So you can check that out. We have a unit study on Ghana as well. We have different things there, and we're growing. We have a good sister, Nikala Asante, who's been helping us out with Kamali as a curriculum designer and instructional designer. So it's been a beautiful thing. Kamali is growing, and Kamali is continuing to help you as much as we can. So thank you so much. Revolutionary love. You on the other side. Peace.